Welcome back to another edition of the Making the Madness College Basketball Podcast. I'm your podcast host, Jonathan Warner, and Sean, we're back for another episode. We've got tons of news, basketball, NBA, college basketball as well to go into. So, how are you doing today?
Doing very good. How about you?
I'm doing good under the circumstances. I think we need to obviously start on the NBA today. Uh, I think that's the right thing to do. The NBA, it started with the Bucks Magic game. They decided to boycott the game as a kind of protest against Jacoby Blake.
Jacob Blake.
Jacob Blake. So they protest for the what could have easily been the murder of Jacob Blake, who shot 7 times at point blank range. Frankly, it's a miracle he's still with us. And kind of the Bucks decided to sit in their team room, and now the rest of the NBA games were called off for tonight. Still no word on, I guess, the future, but there is a kind of postponement per se. It's going on with the NBA. What do you kind of see with this NBA situation? I'm going at it from the point of view. It's obviously in America, you have the freedom to stand up to boycott for doing like these type of things. You have the right to protest. You have the right to boycott. I think this was kind of the right way about going about it. Obviously, you can protest on the street, but like I think the boycott here by the Bucks does send a very strong message to, I think, not only the rest of the leagues, but I think to probably the state or like the state of Wisconsin to kind of get this police brutality under control, because it's not the first time it's happened in Wisconsin.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, were you not done?
You're good.
Okay. Well, like, obviously in this country, and in every country, but this country, there's still issues with police brutality and racism. There shouldn't be. I feel like we've came a long way from where we used to be, but I think there's still a long way to go, unfortunately, and hopefully the world just makes progress. Hopefully people become understanding and become better people. Like, how I see it, the First Amendment, you have freedom of expression, peaceful protest. They're peacefully protesting the game, and if there's players who wanted to play, then perfect, that's fine with me. And if there's players who didn't want to play, it's fine with me because that's their right. And, same thing with the kneeling thing. If players wanted to kneel, that's fine. And if players didn't want to kneel, that's fine. Because it's their choice, and I don't think they should be attacked either way. It just comes down to what they believe in, and some players might think of it more seriously than others. Sterling Brown had a run-in with the police where, he was attacked pretty badly and didn't really do anything, or he didn't do anything at all. So on the Bucks, he has a different point of view than someone else on the team might have. So when you look at it from that standpoint, that's where having conversations with people is important, to hear other point of views in their ways of life and how they've lived and what they've experienced, because you can talk to 30 different people and they'll possibly have all different experiences. One could have great run-ins with the police, and others could have been targeted by the police, because there's bad cops, there's bad people, there's bad people everywhere, and it's kind of unfortunate, but there's a lot of good too.
Yeah, I think what this kind of protest does, I think what the main purpose of this is just to point out the wrongdoings that have kind of occurred racially within this country when it comes to police brutality. Obviously, I'm a white man. I've never really dealt with the police. One, I've never been pulled over by the police, but like, I feel pretty confident saying, like, just looking at the video, if I'd done the same thing, that at worst maybe I get tased but I still think I I wouldn't be shot 7 times, and I'm pretty confident in saying that. Uh, so it just kind of goes to show the discrepancies within the country as a whole. Uh, but putting putting a little bit of just focus on this, I think, is really what the NBA is trying to do. We'll see if maybe it carries over into college sports this year if teams decide to boycott. But like, I think putting some notoriety, some talk into it, does really good for, I think, the improvement. Obviously, I still think the majority of the people who are watching the NBA and actually enjoy the NBA aren't are the same people who are already kind of on the player side. They're not really, like, I'd say most of the people that watch the NBA aren't inherently as racist as the people who don't watch the NBA, but maybe we can get few people to kind of understand other people's point of views. I think that's ultimately what needs to happen in order to kind of develop in as a country to be a little bit less racist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being open-minded and learning new things is always one of the more important things. It's a great quality to have as a person, and I mean, other people's experience are always going to be different. I mean, I'm half white and half Hispanic. I grew up in a pretty heavily Hispanic area, so I didn't really deal with any racism. The only things I dealt with were just some people who would actually, since I'm biracial and my father's white, I would have people question if I'm Hispanic, which, if that's the worst thing that's happened to me race wise, and I have it pretty good. So I mean, that's good. I don't know what would happen to me in a situation with the police. Hopefully I don't have to find out, but if I do, hopefully, I don't even know what to say, honestly. I don't know what it would be, and unfortunately that's how it kind of is, but hopefully just police brutality and racism in this country just stops. Obviously, we still have a long way to go, but I think we could get there at some point. But people just need to be more open-minded and listen to other people's culture and ways of life before they judge people's decisions.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And kind of with the NBA, this whole bubble situation to begin with the issue with the national anthem. We had this issue 4 years ago with Colin Kaepernick deciding to kneel for the national anthem, and I think we, as a society, kind of just brushed it off to the side. But it, like, when the NBA restarted, I think the first 2 games of the day, everyone, or pretty much everyone's been kneeling for the national anthem. And then I also respect the right of people to not kneel for the national anthem. Jonathan Isaac stood up for the national anthem. I think that's, like, if you're going to, like, respect the people's right to kneel for the national anthem, you also have to allow people to stand up for the national anthem, which I think is another thing too. Like, the freedom of speech, the freedom to express your own opinion on how things should be done in the country can't be understated. And I think it's important on us to get a better understanding as a society.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at Myers Leonard from the Heat. He said that he supported his teammates for kneeling, but he wasn't going to kneel because the flag meant something more to him than just something that just he didn't want to feel like he was protesting the flag, which isn't really what they're protesting, but he didn't want to feel that way, and that's fine because the flag means something different to him, and if that's what he wants to believe, and Jimmy Butler or someone else believes something differently, that's fine because you can disagree and still come to a mutual understanding of what other people think.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing as well. Just getting a better understanding of different point of views, because my point of views and someone else's point of views are two separate things. And understanding that and kind of being able to understand different things that go on, maybe that, I think the understanding that life isn't the same for every single individual. I think that that's part of the way we kind of develop as a society and can kind of, I think, come and become a little bit better, like, when it comes to this type of things. Obviously, I still don't think, like, we're a long way away from, I think, police brutality being completely solved, and racism, I think, for however long, like, I still think in the next 100 years it will still be going on, but I think we can develop and, like, limit the amount of, racial injustices that kind of happen within the, world. And I think that's something, putting, like, this boycott, obviously, here earlier today is one thing, but I think it can kind of develop and we can get more discussion on it, more discussion on some of the players. And I think that ultimately does better.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we're going to move off that discussion. Going to talk about LSU, and we've got some strong-ass offers from Will Wade. 11 different recruits reportedly received some offers from Mr. Wade. What do you think this means for his job security, and what could go on with LSU in the future?
I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, I don't know. Did you think he was going to coach again after the 2018-2019 season for LSU?
Personally, at first, no, but then it just, like, the longer it kind of went on, I felt it was more likely he's going to stay. Now I've moved to the point I'm in full favor of him staying as LSU's head coach, because why not?
Yeah, and big shout out to obviously far bigger than us, but Gary Parrish. I listened to his and Matt Norlander's Eye on College Basketball podcast, just because Gary is probably the best in the business, in my opinion, reporter-wise, and I like to hear what he has to say. So he said that, Will Wade, and this is all stuff, you can read, but hearing it from someone like him obviously validates it, that Will Wade has been purposely uncooperative with NCAA, Javonte Smart's family, and Javonte Smart, whoever they asked in the Javonte Smart circles about getting strong-ass offers, they said that didn't happen with him. But what he said they probably did is they went to other recruits who were choosing between LSU and a couple other teams and didn't choose to go to LSU. And they're like, hey, so what can you tell us about Will Wade and LSU? We're not going to ask you anything about your current school. We just want to know what happened with LSU and how those conversations went. And that could be how they got the 11 players, because nobody on the current LSU team is obviously going to rat on Will Wade. And this is obviously a widespread thing, college basketball, college sports in general. Are players getting paid? Absolutely. Did Zion get paid to go to Duke? I think you would be naive to think he didn't, because all signs were pointing he's going to go to Clemson, and then he just randomly happens to go to Duke. That's crazy how that works. But I'm not going to be one of those people that are like, if you're not going to get Duke and Kentucky, you can't penalize LSU and USC and Oklahoma State and Arizona. And I'm just like, you need to have proof before you do things. The way Coach K might be in the Rick Pitino phase of things. He might just be, if I don't hear anything, it's not happening. If it can go through one ear and out the other, whatever that expression is. I guarantee you Coach K has little to no actual interaction with any of the illegal things going on in college basketball, because he has other people handle it for him. Coach K is not giving money to Zion Williamson personally. He's having like an intern do it, or someone very low on the totem pole, and having them do it. Coach K's not meeting up with Zion's uncle or something and handing him a big bag of cash. That's not how that works. Like, what it comes down to is Will Wade handled this terribly. He's probably going to get banned from college basketball because, I mean, he's pretty clearly cheated here and made a lot of strong-ass offers. You know, I think Will Wade's a good guy. I think he's a good coach, but he's really handled this terribly.
Yeah, with Will Wade, I just think the fact he's been kind of openly, blatantly cheating has, been caught on video, being called a gangster. I think that's just it's entertaining to just kind of read what anything he has potentially said in the past or will say when it comes to recruiting. But just looking at him, it'd be like he's going to be looking at a lengthy suspension whenever, and the NCAA is going to be looking at different paying of the recruits that have gone on at LSU. They're going to be digging more and more into that, and at some point the day of reckoning will be coming for LSU. It'll probably be multi-year postseason ban, and I think the thing with Will Wade, if you're going to pay recruits, I think you need to pay it a little bit smarter. Don't be just offering money willy-nilly as the head coach. Maybe do it as, like, have your assistant do it, which would maybe be a better idea, but it's neither here nor there. With Will Wade, he'll be facing at some point in the near future lengthy suspension, and I think as well he'll be. I still think, like, if I were LSU, just looking at their basketball program, even though Will Wade is a cheater, I would still consider keeping him as the head coach just because he has kind of revitalized the program. They won the SEC last year. They were going to make the NCAA tournament this past year. Assuming they're qualified for the NCAA tournament, which the way the NCAA appeals process and everything like that goes, they'll take it 3 or 4 years before anything actually comes down on the case. So they'll make the NCAA tournament this year and maybe the next year as well, because he's bringing in high-level recruits and they're going to be winning games. And so, like, I'm not all too, like, if I were LSU, I don't think this does it for me. I think I would keep Will Wade as the head coach, at least for this upcoming season, and maybe reevaluate if there's anything else coming out. But certainly, it's an interesting scenario that Will Wade has brought to this LSU program.
Yeah, and LSU has a few options here because they haven't received a notice of allegations yet. So what are they? I do think Will Wade's coached his last game for LSU. I do think he'll get fired, but here's how LSU does it. Do they do it before the notice of allegations? But in his contract, them and Will Wade maneuvered it around to where they said they have like probable cause to fire him if he gets a level 2 penalty, but it looks like he could have like 11 level 1 penalties, but that would be, a pretty significant ban from college basketball. So LSU has options. I don't know, it's tough because the NCAA could come down harder on them as a program the longer they keep him as a coach. So I don't know if they would do that, but with the NCAA, anything's possible. I just think it's a bad look to keep him as your coach right now.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with that. I still think win at all costs, keep Will Wade, contend for an SEC title this year, and then if I were in charge, that's kind of the motto I would go about, and then maybe consider firing him after this season, or fire him after something else comes out. When it comes to like let's say they get a notice of allegations like November 1st or something, maybe fire him then or fire him after the season or something like that. But I'm with
yeah. Yeah, that could be the case. I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see. But I do think he's probably. I mean, it's hard to say he's coached his last game as a college basketball coach because Rick Pitino got hired again, and Rick Pitino has a very long history of doing things incorrectly and lying about it. So I guess Will Wade probably will coach in college basketball again. It just won't be for a while.
Yeah, he'll get let's say he gets fired somewhat soon for a probable cause. I still think in probably 5 years after his show cause is up and all that, I still think he'll be he's one, very young, and two, I think still wants to coach. So I think in maybe 5 or 6 years, whenever that show cause ends, he'll still be looking for a job. Maybe it won't be at the Power 6 level, but maybe maybe VCU's looking for a head coach again. So maybe he goes back there or something. It's hard to say, but I think he'll be coaching a D1 program so long as he wants to. It's just which one. I don't know if it's LSU. I still think he'll coach LSU this year, but at some point I think his days are numbered at LSU. I'll say that.
Yeah, and maybe he's off to the NBA next for making strong-ass offers is acceptable. So, that could be an option. But
I think he's got a little bit less sway there.
I'd be I'm used to offering players, though, in free agency negotiations. I just didn't do it, legally before. So, you never know.
You never know. You never know is something you get out of Marshall Henderson. He is now on the Ole Miss staff. He's one of the funner players to watch. He's especially fun during that 2013 season where he led Ole Miss to a SEC title, led them to the NCAA tournament, led them to a first-round win. He's certainly a fun player to watch, and he is back. He's back. He's going to be a graduate assistant on the Ole Miss staff. What do you kind of make of this hire? Obviously, I don't think it impacts winning too much, but maybe he goes into coaching long-term and becomes successful at it.
Yeah, I think it has somewhere between zero impact. It's zero impact. It has no effect on how they'll play this year, I'm assuming, at all. He's just there because he's played, and he's just an interesting guy. I mean, he just had an interesting career. Started at Utah, transferred, went to Ole Miss, played 2 seasons there, and it's just he was really good. But I feel I don't know. I feel like there's some people who forget how good he was, and there's some people who overrate how good he was. He was a really good player, but so much of his game was just making the other team and other fans mad. Doing the Florida chomp or whatever at the Florida fans and teasing Auburn fans or whatever. He was just a character, and I mean, he was just fun to watch. He made college basketball really fun. He was a personality that usually you don't see. And will he be that on the sidelines or something? Probably not, but could I see him getting ejected a couple times? I could see it.
Maybe he'll. I don't know if they play Florida this year. Who knows who they actually play? But maybe they'll play at Florida, and Ole Miss will beat them, and he'll go into the Gators crowd. This is assuming we have crowds this year, but maybe 2 years or whenever we're able to have full fans in the stands and loud student sections, Ole Miss will beat Florida and he'll go into the crowd and Gator chomp.
That would be fantastic.
That's the content we're here for.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, if you're an SEC fan, you probably don't like him, but, it's hard to hate on the guy. He was just a personality, and then when he later got busted for having some cocaine on him, that made sense.
Yeah, it does make some sense. Some other sense is the NCAA is deciding it's going to be giving out waivers to everyone. This especially affects Rhode Island. They're looking to be pretty good this upcoming season. Obviously, with Fats Russell there, they were going to be good, but the Mitchell twins are eligible this upcoming season for Rhode Island. They go from kind of being a irrelevant team within the Atlantic 10 to maybe I still don't think they're a tournament team, but I think they can contend for the tournament this upcoming season. And with the Mitchell twins, Jalen Carey becoming eligible, it should be interesting to watch for Rhode Island.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just look at I was pretty down on Rhode Island for a while there, but with all these waivers, I mean, the Mitchell twins are two really talented guys. Makai and Mikel Mitchell, started at Maryland, didn't play a ton, then they transferred. I mean, that was an interesting situation that they decided to leave after 13 games, but they did, and then they decided to go to Rhode Island. They received waivers, which is pretty fun. And then Jalen Carey, he's a top 100 recruit at one point. And then Malik Martin shot 30% from deep for Charlotte last season, along with Fats Russell. You lose Cyril Langevin, who was there seemingly forever. I don't know, he was there for a long time. Jacob Toppin, who transferred to Kentucky. If Obi Toppin is not his brother, and this isn't to say Jacob Toppin is a bad player, but Jacob Toppin did not show anything last year, really. So I don't think if his brother wasn't Obi Toppin, I wonder what would have where he would have ended up, or if he would have transferred at all. Because, I think they're just hoping he develops the way Obi did. But then you lose a few other guys, Jeff Doughton being probably the most notable. But, I think overall David Cox could have his first team headed to the NCAA tournament, but they'll be a bubble team once again.
Yeah, I still kind of hesitate on that train of thought. I still kind of thinking they'll be competitive this year. I think they'll I would probably put them at fourth in the A-10 standings, behind St. Louis, behind Richmond, behind Dayton. But I still think those three teams are better. But Rhode Island certainly is looking like a better team within the league. I would probably put them fourth within the league standings. With Fats Russell, he's kind of a player. He's not really all that efficient, but he's at least a go-to scorer. The Mitchell twins, at the Big Ten level, they're kind of ineffective because they both are 6'9", 6'10", and don't really have a jump shot to speak of. They're just kind of low post players. But at the A-10 level, it's they go down a level. They can, I think, I'm not going to say they'll be superstars or anything, but they'll protect the paint. They can kind of overwhelm some teams like Fordham pretty easily. So they'll be able to do that. Because Fordham not very good at basketball. But
no, they're very bad.
Jalen Carey, he's another really solid piece. He can, I guess, provide some scoring, maybe run some point guard, move Fats off the ball, help him out. I think this Rhode Island team gets a lot better, especially with all the waivers coming through. And I still don't think they're probably an NCAA tournament team. They'll at least be good once again.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with just about everything said there. So.
Moving on, we're going into talk about the American Athletic Conference. Going to go over the favorite, the top contenders, the sleeper, dark horse team, and we, of course, have to leave it off on the sour note. Team most likely to disappoint. But let's start with the favorite. Who do you kind of see as the favorite within this league?
I have Memphis, and by a pretty wide margin. I know a lot of people have Houston, and Houston's still a solid team, don't get me wrong. But I feel like too many people they're like, oh, last season Memphis disappointed, and it's Penny Hardaway's fault. It's not Penny Hardaway's fault at all. It's James Wiseman left the team. That's what that is. And then Precious Achiuwa was put in a role he didn't go there to play. He didn't come to play as the 5. He played a different role than he came there to play. DJ Jeffries, who was their second best player last season, got hurt and missed the second half of the year. Then, Lester Quinones was hurt early in the season. He's a very good player. He's going to have a great season this year. Boogie Ellis, really disappointed as a freshman. Alex Lomax and Damian Baugh, they're kind of there and kind of just trying to find what they do best, I guess. And then, without Wiseman, that just changed a lot of things. Just so much of what you game plan for in preseason and all that was around James Wiseman. And with him not there, that changes so much. So you just kind of have to look at, last season was a disappointment, but it doesn't just fall on Penny Hardaway, and you can't look at it this season like that'll repeat itself. Lester Quinones is a really good player. Damian Baugh, Alex Lomax, Boogie Ellis, one of them will emerge, I would assume. And then DJ Jeffries, he could be a first-round pick next year. He's kind of your prototypical wing prospect there. He's a really good player. DeAndre Williams from Evansville, I'm assuming he gets a waiver. He transferred in. He's a stretch big man. He's a really good shooter. He got hurt some of last year, and the issues with the Evansville coaching staff should allow him to get a waiver. And then at the 5, you have a top 10 recruit in Musa Cisse. So, there's just so much there. And even if, I don't think Landers Nolly will get a waiver transfer from Virginia Tech, but if he does, that adds even more. But assuming he doesn't, this team's still really good.
Yeah, I don't really see the scenario where Landers Nolly gets a waiver, but maybe he does after all. But I'll lean no on that. I still think with Musa Cisse playing the 5, that's obviously going to be really important. DeAndre Williams at the 4, that's a formidable front court. Williams can step out, pop it. Cisse is just a dominant. I think he'll be defensive player of the year in the American this upcoming season. So having him.
Whoa! Excuse me, sir. Your NA exists.
I'm gonna go Musa Cisse.
Your NA.
We'll put them 1A and 1B. We'll agree to disagree, but that they'll be the top 2 defenders in the conference. There. Does that work?
Yeah, and little quick intermission. I just saw this news. I'm not sure how many Ivy League fans we have here, if any, but Chris Knight, who had 14, nearly 15 a game last season for Dartmouth, is out for the season with an Achilles injury and will enter the portal and transfer for next season. So that's pretty significant news there.
Hey, so someone will be looking out for him.
Yeah, definitely. He's a good player.
He'll be the I don't know if he'll be quite at Makai Mason's level, but maybe do something like that.
Yeah, I just saw that happened 2 days ago, but I just saw it. That's pretty big news that I haven't heard anything about. He's a good player.
Yeah. Going back to the American, I think Memphis is definitely going to be good. I think Boogie Ellis is going to improve. DJ Jeffries, if DeAndre Williams doesn't get a waiver, I think their lineup's still set because DJ Jeffries can play the 4 pretty easily with Quinones at the 3 and then put Boogie Ellis or Damian Baugh at the 1 and 2. I still think they're pretty well set up for success. Their players Boogie Ellis wasn't really all that good last year. I think he'll be better. I think Lester Quinones, he was kind of mediocre last year. I think he'll be better. DJ Jeffries, obviously, if he's healthy, he's going to be better. Turning freshmen into sophomores, I think, is another key thing that will help Memphis for this upcoming season.
Yeah, definitely. Just having that extra year of experience with your guys is always big.
Yeah. Moving on, I'd say the top contender within the league is still Houston. They're probably Houston. I would say I think Memphis has more upside. They're more talented, but Houston's definitely close. I think they're kind of that team you know what to expect. their backcourt is really gonna be interesting. Caleb Mills, Quentin Grimes, Dejan Jarreau, Marcus Sasser. Like individually, I can get into liking those three, but it's kind of going to be interesting to see what they do. Do they play just we're going to go Houston Rockets style, just play completely small ball, or like how do they work in Mills, Grimes, Jarreau, and Sasser? It'll be something interesting to see, but I think this Houston team's going to be solid. I don't know if they'll win the league. Like I would lean Memphis, but Houston definitely has a good shot, or as good as a shot as anyone to win the league. So I think Houston's the top contender in the league.
Yeah, Houston's good, but I just have worries. Dejan Jarreau was really bad last season. I don't know what happened. He was just not good at anything, and I think he was hurt briefly, and then he bit a player's leg. Obviously, that's not great. You shouldn't be biting players. You're not an infant, so that's bad. But then you lose Nate Hinton unexpectedly. Fabian White gets hurt. Obviously, Houston doesn't really utilize their bigs like that. They like to double the other team's big, but they do that with a guy like Nate Hinton at the 4, he's 6'5", but he played much bigger. I mean, just losing him is such a big deal, and I don't feel like it's talked about enough.
Yeah.
I just think that can Quentin Grimes be more consistent? Can Caleb Mills be more consistent other than shooting the deep ball? I mean, there's just a few questions that are unanswered for me currently right there.
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of Caleb Mills. I think he's going to take a huge step forward. I think he might be one of the best guards in the American pretty easily, but it does kind of come down to the Dejan Jarreau, Quentin Grimes of the world. What do you get out of them? If you can get like realistically, they could easily have. They have the talent, the skill set to average 15 points per game, but they'll go one game, they'll score 20 points per game, and you're like, wow, look at these two. No one's beating Houston. And the next game, neither player will score. Like you just don't know what to get out of them. Maybe we'll hit more consistency. That would be something that Houston would need. If so, that would definitely be a big aid to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on, we've gone over the favorite. We've gone over the top contender, which I think is Houston. You have another team that you really like, SMU. I guess we could talk about them here real quick.
Yeah, I like SMU. I mean, I had them number 1 at one point before they lost Isaiah Mike. I think that's a pretty big deal. He's a really good player. He's a stretch, I think in the NBA he'll be a wing, but for them he played the 4 or 5 role. But they add Yornay, who's an elite defender. Offensively, he isn't great, but, he does enough. But defensively, he's a force down low. He'll cause problems for sure. And then when you look at Kendrick Davis, a guy who transferred in from TCU last season, he had 15 a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, I believe. I'd like to see him be a little more efficient overall, but you're not going to get much better than that from a point guard with his size at 5'10". Tyson Jolly is a really good scorer. Ferran Hunt's a good player. And then Darius McNeil, a transfer from Cal, him and Emmanuel Bandumel will be battling it out for the starting shooting guard spot. I think either way they'll play similar minutes, but we'll see what comes of that. And then on the bench, Ethan Shagwa, he's a pretty good player. I mean, I didn't like him in the starting lineup when Isaiah Mike left. I was like, if he's in your starting lineup, that's probably not a good thing. I don't think he's a bad player, though. I just think he's better off the bench and playing like 15 minutes a game. But I think SMU probably should make the tournament pretty easily this season.
Yeah, I would say there are 3 teams in the American that I think are tournament teams. I would throw SMU as that kind of third team. I really like Kendrick Davis as a point guard. He's just a really steadying influence. He's great at finding open teammates. He's he puts the ball in the right spots. And that's something you need out of a point guard. Tyson Jolly really, I think, kind of emerged as a really good scorer, and then Ferran Hunt as well. That's a three-person tandem that offensively is going to be very dangerous within the American for this upcoming season. Yornay, you just add like a low post shot blocking machine, which is essentially what Ane is. He's limited offensively, but you don't add Yornay on the transfer market to add offense. You add him for his defensive abilities, which is what he's going to bring. So I really like this SMU team. I put them third behind Houston and Memphis, but I still think they're probably a tournament team this upcoming season.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on, we touched the top contenders. It's time for the sleeper, though. Who's the sleeper you kind of have?
I'll go with, for sleeper, I'll say UCF. I like a lot of what they have. You add Darius Perry, a grad transfer from Louisville. It's hard to find someone who's played at the ACC level, which is obviously a tougher conference in the American, but 5 points a game. He's a good defender, good facilitator, good shooter. Last year they added Dazon Ingram from Alabama. He wasn't very good. Perry's a good player. I like a lot of what he does. Colin Smith is back I feel like he's been there forever too, but he's a good player. And then you have guys like CJ Walker, who's an unreal athlete. I've probably never seen anybody who's as good of an athlete as him. He's just incredible. He's a good defender, really good athlete. He just needs to figure out being just a better offensive player. But transferring in from Oregon, he's going to have a really good season. I just like a lot of what he does as a player. They have Darren Green Jr., had 10 a game last season, 41% from deep, looks like a potential star one day. I think that Johnny Dawkins probably doesn't have a tournament squad yet, but maybe it can be a conversation once the season gets going and they could be in the bubble conversation.
Yeah, I agree. UCF, I think, is going to be kind of in that. I don't know if they'll be contending for an NCAA tournament bid, but I think they'll be a top half of the AAC type team. That front court, CJ Walker, Colin Smith, like that is a really that's all you can ask for at the American. That's going to be a fantastic front court. Still think, Perry, I think transferring into the AAC level is going to be obviously a better fit for Perry. I still question him being able to be come in and become a go-to scorer at that level, but I think with the front court, you've got the talent with Darius Perry. I think that's a team that's going to be very good. My team, though, I like USF. Obviously, this is a team. They're returning David Collins. They're returning Quincy Radio. That's all. No,
Rito graduated.
And then they're getting Yetna back, who missed a lot last season. They're getting Yetna back. He's a really good front court player, a really good shot blocker. I just think this USF team, there was a lot of hype about them last season, and the season kind of went downhill once Yetna got injured. But this year, David Collins, Alexis Yetna, I think that's a inside-out duo that's going to be dangerous. I think they're going to be a kind of a team to watch out. I think can finish in the top half of the American. Still probably maybe a CBI team. Maybe they sneak into the NIT, but I think they'll be improved.
Yeah, I agree. David Collins can really play, 13 a game last season. Alexis Yetna, he's a guy that's a stretch big man who can definitely knock down the three consistently, who got hurt just before the first game of the season last year. Michael Durr at the 5, he's a guy who's 7 foot and right now is just kind of a guy who's tall, and I think he can become more of an overall just basketball player this year, which is, what you want. But overall, I just think that USF's a good team. I have them, I think I have them one spot behind UCF in my rankings. That'll be out very soon. But I think they're probably an NIT team. I could see that as a pretty reasonable ending for them this year.
Yeah, I think their ceiling probably is still, I would say, an IT team. Like, I'm not going to go full on board. They'll make the NCAA tournament, but I think they'll be like decent this upcoming season.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on, we've got the dark horse team. I'm going with Tulsa. They return Elijah Joyner. He was pretty good, especially late last season. They add in Brandon Rochelle. I think he's going to step up, kind of be a good go-to scorer for this upcoming season. Obviously, coming off a season where I guess they technically won they did win the American record-wise, so they're AAC champs. I think they'll be kind of mediocre for this upcoming season. I wouldn't expect a whole lot, but I think they can go from being I'd say a lot of people might have them 7 or 8 in the standings. Maybe they can sneak up and be fourth in the AAC standings.
Yeah, I don't really. I'm not with you on that one. I have them last in the conference. They lose Jariah Horn. They lose Martinez Igbanu. Both of your big men are gone there. That's a problem. Lawson Carita was a good shooter past few years. I just think, you lose too much, and a lot of the other teams improved. But for me, my dark horse is East Carolina. I like a lot of what they have. I mean, they have a lot of guys who were freshmen last season, like Tristan Newton and J.J. Miles and Brandon Suggs turning into sophomores. And then you have a star with Jaden Gardner at 19 a game last season. Then you had a 3-star recruit in Noah Farrakhan. He's a point guard. He's probably going to play a lot. I just think that an NCAA tournament team, but I think they could finish 7th. I think, I had a conversation with another writer yesterday, a very good one at that, and we discussed, he thought I was, he said there was no way that that ECU would finish above Wichita State, which is what I have. And I didn't know people were so down on ECU. I thought most people kind of had the same idea that I do about them. But, I'll be on the hype train for ECU if I need to. That's fine.
Okay. ECU needs people on the hype train. They definitely need. Did you say Tulsa would finish last?
I did say that.
You do know Temple exists.
Temple isn't. I did have them last at one point, but I no longer do. I mean, I just think that Khalif Battle likely to get a waiver at this point, transfer from Butler. He's a former Big East player. Ty Strickland, who sat out last season, he could play a little bit. J.P. Mormon, Jake Forrester, down low. I just think overall they're slightly better than Tulsa.
What about Tulane?
Tulane, I have, I think, 9th. I don't know. I'd have to double check that. But you get waivers for Gabe Watson. You get waiver for Kevin Cross. You get a waiver for Jalen Forbes. Those are, I mean, I don't think Kevin Cross is very good, but the other two, Jalen Forbes and Gabe Watson, those guys will play big roles this year. Noble Days, I think he's a sophomore now. He'll play a pretty solid role. I would have them even higher. Ryan Murphy, transfer from Pitt, didn't decide to go pro overseas. But I think that Ron Hunter, I mean, they lose Tayshawn Hightower to off the court issues, been accused of murder, innocent until proven guilty, but he's regardless not on the team. So losing your top scorer is tough, but I think they have the guys to kind of supplement that a little bit. I just think that overall, Ron Hunter can piece it together, and they have a pretty good team.
Yeah, I'm still not going to go with Tulane or Temple over Tulsa. Not buying into that.
We'll have to see.
We will have to see. And then we've got to go team most likely to disappoint. I think you have an opinion on that, so I'll let you start there.
Hold on. Let me stand up for this one. Wichita State fans, you might not want to listen to this, or maybe you do want to listen to this. Wichita State is not going to be good this season. They're not going to be even decent. They're going to be a bad team this year, and that's what it is. Greg Marshall's a good coach, but when you lose nearly your entire team, that's usually not a good thing. You lose Eric Stevenson, you lose Jamarius Burton, you lose Noah Fernandez, you lose, I couldn't even tell you how to say his name. I think it's Ashbourne Midgard to Grand Canyon. I think that's how you say it. English is my first language, and I'm not very good at that either. So saying another, a name in kind of another little accent, kind of not my thing. But you return Dexter Dennis, who, was kind of not good last season. Kind of disappointed quite a bit. Tyson Etienne, and they lose Grant Sherfield. Can't forget about him. He's really good. Tyson Etienne, if he's your only consistent, reliable scorer, that's an issue. Altuve Gilbert, his entire career, has been hurt and not good. So, that's not good, obviously. Morris Udesi's a good defender, but offensively, he does little to nothing. Obviously, Greg Marshall teams are good on defense, but I just don't see. 2 seasons ago, they made the NIT. Last season, I think you had them as the very last team in your final bracket. But just for the sake of argument, I'll say they wouldn't have gotten in. And then, so that would have been 2 seasons of not getting in the tournament. If things are going downhill, you're losing a lot of your team. They're going to be bad this season.
Yeah, I think so much of that just depends on Altuve Gilbert if he plays, which we have not seen him playing. Like, he's missed more games than he's actually played. So maybe he'll play. At that point, I think Wichita State's going to be a little bit better. I'm not really buying into Wichita State. I'm also going to jump on the team most likely to disappoint train with Wichita State. Etienne, Dexter Dennis, they're solid players. They can go off. But if Altuve Gilbert's not healthy, Trey Wade and Morris Udinzi, that's not an ideal rotation to necessarily go with. So I'm on the Wichita State's not going to be all that good this season bandwagon.
Yeah, definitely. I just think that it's just I think this is the beginning of the end for Greg Marshall at Wichita State. They're not going to fire Greg Marshall, but I think he's going to leave in the near future, and I think someone would definitely hire him.
Yeah. That's my take, though, on Wichita State. So I'm not I'm a little bit higher on Wichita State. I think they can maybe be a back-end NIT team, but I don't see a scenario where they make the NCAA tournament this upcoming season.
Yeah, I see zero scenario where that's a possibility at all. So,
well, any other things you would like to add before we sign off here?
Have you found out any other brothers who played college basketball recently? I don't know. Is there anything else being add there?
We got Isaiah Poor Bear Chandler. I'm sure there's someone named Isaiah Chandler, so maybe they're brothers?
Maybe he's Tyson Chandler's son.
So the relatives.
Yeah, that's close enough. Tyson Chandler didn't even play in college, but they might be related.
Let's see. Do you have any?
No, I have another relative, I guess, Scottie Pippen Jr. That's an easy one.
That's almost too easy.
Yeah. But I just need to do more research about this. I'm pretty uneducated in the topic of
Boogie Ellis and Keon Ellis.
Who?
Boogie Ellis and Keon Ellis, same last name, so they could be brothers.
I thought you were saying they're actually related.
They could be. I don't think they are.
after seeing Dylan Ennis and Tyler Ennis somehow being related, is still mind-blowing to me. They look nothing alike. I look more similar to them than they look to each other.
And then their grandpa is Perry Ellis.
Yeah.
Boogie Ellis and Keon Ellis. Great grandpa Perry
Oh,
Ellis.
I just got that. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, who knows at this point? Maybe he'll get a couple of years of eligibility to play at Kansas again. He's only been out for a few years.
Yeah. It's medical red shirt.
Yeah, and Jalen Coleman lands, like, he could get, this is a legitimate thing. I don't think there's ever been a player who's gotten 7 years in college sports before. It's going to happen in football, obviously, because they said if you play a season, you won't use a year of eligibility. But in basketball, if there's, like, no season, which I see, little to no way that happens, but let's say there isn't, Jalen Coleman lands will get a 7th season of eligibility. That's just crazy to think about.
Yeah. If college basketball gets canceled this upcoming season, that's the only good thing that would come out of it.
Yeah, Jalen Coleman Lands has been in college since 2014, I believe. Like, that's a long time. Like, in 2014, just for reference here, I was 12 years old. So obviously I'm young still, but I was still, like, nearly in my diapers. Not actually, but, like, close enough.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Well, that will wrap it up for this edition of the Making the Madness College Basketball Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Sean, where can people find you?
I'm there. One of us has actually changed our Twitter handle recently, not me, but you can still find me, Sean02MTM on Twitter. Subscribe to the Making the Madness YouTube channel. We have some ideas coming. I just, want to make the videos as good as possible, so they take time, but just no ideas are brewing. What'd you say?
We'll get that. Got a great one coming.
Yeah,
Sean's on it. So
yeah, we have some clever ideas. So, and then you can go follow Jonathan at jwarriner, WARRINER, not Warner like Kurt Warner, but Warner at jwarnermtm on Twitter. He changes Twitter handle without telling anybody, and then I just see him like one of my tweets or something. I'm like, who's this guy? And then I find out it's him.
That's how it goes. But the new Twitter handle, jwarnermtm. I guess find it there if you're looking for it.
Yeah, you probably follow him already though. But you definitely need to follow me because I've been at like 280 followers for like 3 weeks. And I'd like to get more than that. I'm pretty good at the Twitter. I mean, I let people know I took a really good nap today. I mean, that's just high-level Twitter content. Who doesn't need that in their life?
That's the Twitter content we're all here for.
Exactly.
Well, that's
it for me.
That will wrap it up for the show. We'll be back next time with more brothers and maybe some more college basketball news. The way the NCAA is handing out waivers, maybe we'll get like Landers Nolly and someone like that getting a waiver. Because
I have received a waiver to be immediately eligible. So
there we go. Sean has received a waiver. So the world is saved. That will wrap it up for this edition. The Making the Madness College Basketball Podcast. We'll be back sometime soon. Stay tuned.